name's Jake Kicks, and today I wanted to go over a quick look at a couple of new lights that I've been testing and playing with, and they are the PixaPro Citi 600. This is the TTL version. And we also have the PixaPro Lumi 200. Okay, both PixaPro lights. So before we get started, let's have a quick look at why I've decided to test these lights. So why choose the PixaPros? Why am I choosing to use the PixaPro lights over some of the other lights, or what was wrong with the lights that I currently had? Well, as some of you may know, I was up until recently sponsored and supported by Bowens. Bowens lighting has been around for a very long time, and I've been using their lights for 15 years at least. I'm very happy with their lights, but unfortunately a couple of months ago Bowens had to close their doors, as far as I'm aware, permanently. So very sad day for the industry, but yeah, unfortunately Bowens is no longer with us, and to my knowledge I haven't heard anybody looking at picking the brand name back up, taking the reins as it were, and carrying on with it. So for the time being, although I have 4, 6, 8 lights by Bowens, and obviously they work very, very well, and I haven't got any problems with them, I do have to consider the fact that if one of those lights goes, then falls off a light stand, whatever, that I need to replace it. And if Bowens is no longer around, then I need to look at other alternatives for me to be able to do that. Now, one issue with a situation like this happening, where a lighting brand goes away, and if one of the lights fails, then okay, fine, you could just buy another light, but you also have all the modifiers as well. So softboxes, beauty dishes, ring flashes, but the list goes on. Just, I've got a lot of modifiers that I've been using over the years that specifically go into what was now an industry standard lighting attachment, which is the S-Fit. Okay, so that's where they go in there. So if one light goes down, I need to obviously replace it, but there's no point in me replacing it with a different light if it means that I have to buy all new modifiers. So if I was to go and get a Broncolor or a Pro Photo head, then I would need all the Pro Photo and Broncolor modifiers. Yes, there are lighting adjusters or converters that you can actually put on them, but in my experience they haven't always been great. So I was really looking for replacement heads that were going to have an S-Fit attachment, which is what the PixaPros use. Okay, so that would mean that if one head went down, I could just swap it out with a PixaPro head, and I could then use all my attachments within the same shoot. Nothing would change. I wouldn't have to go and find specific modifiers if one head went down and that sort of thing. So it just meant that it was going to make my life a lot easier. So I was looking around for alternatives, and PixaPro, a friend of mine, Wayne Johns, who's also on the Bowens team, recommended that I check out the PixaPros because it was exactly what I needed. And I'm glad I did, because it certainly seems like they've got a lot to offer. So let's get into a little bit deeper as to what the PixaPro heads actually are and why I think they're good. So PixaPro, you may or may not have heard of them, and if you haven't heard of them, then there may be a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, both of these heads are actually made by the lighting manufacturer called Godox, which is based in China. Now, what happens is that a lot of these lights are made and distributed worldwide, and here in the UK, one of the main distributors is by Essential Photo, and they put their branding on it, the PixaPro branding on it, so that they can offer UK guarantees and repairs and that sort of thing. So there was, and rightly so, there's a bit of concern if you're purchasing lights from overseas, and it's like, what guarantee do I have if something goes wrong, if something's not right, if parts aren't in the box, and etc, etc. The list of concerns goes on, and rightly so. So what different companies do, like Essential Photo here with PixaPro, is they offer a complete guarantee and repairs and parts and all that sort of thing. So it's basically just like buying a light in your in your own country, and I think that there's lots of these different brands that do that. I think in the US it's Flashpoint, I think is one of them, but and I think they're sold out of Adorama, but here in the UK PixaPro is definitely the core one that I'm aware of. So a friend of mine at Bowens, like Wayne Johns, told me to get in touch with these guys at Essential Photo, which I did. I spoke to them and I said, look, I'm looking for a light to fulfill these needs, like I said, replacing the S-Fit. I also get a lot of questions from people as soon as they found out about Bowens going down. It's like, well, do you have any recommendations? What should I get? I've got all the Bowens modifiers. What light should I get? And I spoke to Essential Photo and basically said that. I said, look, do you have any recommendations? What should I have a look at? Can I test anything? And he very kindly has allowed me to test these heads, give my sort of feedback, and then let you guys know. He's also given me a discount code for you guys. If you want to use it, then obviously you can do, and that'll be in the description, and I'll also go into that at the end if you want to get these. But these two heads then, what we got? So very different heads indeed. This is the PixaPro Citi 600TTL, which is a location head, travel head, because it's basically got a battery. Okay, this back section here comes off, it's a battery, recharge it, no cables, 600 watts TTL, which also means that the TTL version is great if you're like a wedding shooter or even reportage and that sort of stuff, where maybe your subject is moving a lot and you can't afford to be checking the lighting power the whole time. So this will adjust the power of the head based on the distance of the subject that you're photographing. I'm personally probably not going to use that because the stuff that I do is all in the studio. So there is a version where there's not TTL, so you can certainly get that one. But if you do need it, then TTL is incredibly powerful. Those of you who are using speed lights and that sort of stuff then are used to that. So yeah, this is a great alternative. The other head we got here is the Lumi 200. Now I actually requested this one. This is pretty much almost the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of the PixaPro range. At the top here, you've got this incredible unit that does everything, all singing, all dancing, and then at the other end of the scale, you have this one here, which is it's main, so you plug it into the wall just like you would do, and this is a 200 watt head. But well, it's incredibly light. I mean, it's less than, I think it's less than 2 kilos, this one, but incredibly light, because it doesn't have a battery in it, so in a studio that's handy as well. But the most key point for me is the fact that this is £110 UK, which is ridiculous. It's a studio strobe that does everything that a studio strobe would do. Very simple to use, especially if you're starting out in studio lighting and that sort of thing. And it's just basically plug it in, turn the power of the modeling bulb up and down, turn the power of the light up and down. That's pretty much it. You are ready to go. And the reason why I wanted to look at something like this was because I get a lot of questions about, I can't afford a studio strobe, but I'm currently shooting with a speed light. Do you have any recommendations and that sort of thing? And in fact, I just released a workshop called Creatively Simple Lighting, where I was trying to be very creative in a studio, but ensuring that all the setups could be done with speed lights. And I dug my speed lights out. I probably hadn't used them in like 10 years at least, and they're just such a pain to use. I take my hats off to you guys who do use them, fully understand it. Wedding shooters, like, you need them. I totally get it. Like, for those people who need speed lights, you need them. But if you're in a studio, in all honesty, there really isn't any excuse in this day and age to not be using a studio strobe. For example, I know that there is I just did a quick look, and this is a 200 watt. Speed lights are done by guide numbers, and there's a Nikon speed light that you can get for like 600 quid that is not even anywhere near as powerful as this one. Just to put it into context, yes, you can get third-party speed lights that are the Youngios, whatever they are, that are like 40-50 quid or something. That's fine, but it's the quality of light that you need to be aware of. It's coming out of a very small flash tube, a very tiny flash tube, so it's very, very difficult to modify that lighting. If you want to get into, you know, beautiful portrait lighting and studio headshots and that sort of stuff, and you want to use something a little bit more interesting than a softbox, then unfortunately I would recommend that you need to get into a studio strobe as quickly as possible. The reason for that, in my opinion, is the flash tube. Like I said before, a speed light creates a very hard light that comes out of a very small space, and this flash tube, which you should be able to see, this coil around here, is basically spreading light around the entire modifier, which gives you a far more refined quality of light and gives you a lot more control as well. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. I tested it yesterday, as well as this one. Did a shoot yesterday I just had to do a couple of sportswear gym outfits, and it was a 2-light setup. I was like, okay, great, let's just give these 2 heads a go. Both great heads. Like I said, turn it on and you're ready, really. Now, a couple of people have also mentioned, they said, why did you want to go for something, you know, why didn't you go for Profoto? Why didn't you go for Broncolor? Well, I've certainly spent some time using the Broncolor heads, the Cirrus heads, and fantastic heads. Yeah, beautiful, you know, pieces of kit, and they boast some very short flash durations. They, you know, color consistency, all those things, fantastic. And although I am a professional shooter, my professional work doesn't require that level of, it's like when people say about color consistency, and it's just for the sort of stuff that I do, it's just not relevant. So if you do need that precise control, then sure. If you do need that consistency for every single picture you take, then by all means go for that, but you pay for it. Profoto is again another good option. I have my personal concerns with Profoto. I love what they're doing as a brand. I think they're pushing so many new ideas. Some of them may stick as well, which is great. And you see some companies that, you know, perhaps aren't doing anything new. And Profoto is definitely somebody who is looking at trying new things, putting new stuff out there. The concern that I have with them is how they dissipate the light from their heads. So, for example, the Profoto B1s have obviously we've got a flash tube here, but their flash tube is encased in a tube. Okay, so for example, the B1s have a flash tube that is fired down a tube, and then they've added it now like a grazed or diffusion glass at the end, which spreads it. I have an issue with the way that modifies the light, or like the modifiers are able to dissipate the light as soon as it comes out of there. Okay. So for example, you know, I mentioned about the issues with the speed lights before, about how it's very difficult to modify the light when it comes out. It's a very small space and that sort of thing. I have some issues with the Profoto B1s, and I know a lot of their heads are enclosed. So the actual light itself is behind something, whether it be you know, a dome or even a tube like this, which makes it very, very difficult for the light to be spread around a modifier. The Godox PixaPros here obviously don't have that. The tubes are very exposed, and that's a double-edged sword. I posted an image last week and just mentioning that I was going to be testing these. I know a guy on there said, yeah, I got the Profotos, I love these Citis. I use the Citis when I'm in the studio and that sort of thing, but for my architectural work, Profotos are awesome because the flash tube and everything is enclosed in that tube. So it's going to give you a lot more protection for sure. Like your flash tube is going to be encased in that tube, is going to be a lot safer changing modifiers in the wind and that sort of stuff. You do need to be careful if you're changing a modifier on here in the wind, then, you know, a gust of wind catch the speed ring or whatever and could easily damage that. The Profotos are all enclosed, so horses for courses. I don't do any location work, or if I do, it's always inside anyway, so I don't need to worry about damaging tubes and that sort of stuff, and it does mean that I, in my opinion, have a far broader quality of light that comes from the tubes. Okay. Now, one of the other reasons why I have gone with these at the moment, or I'm looking at these at the moment, is because Godox actually made the Bowens heads. Not all of them, obviously. This is just the latest edition, and specifically the XNTs, which is what these ones are. Okay, so this is what Bowens called the location head, and I'm sure you can see the similarities straight away. They've both got these enclosed tubes, these flash tubes that come in and out, and the menu system and everything like that is the same and that sort of thing as well. So for me, it was literally about almost moving across into a similar ecosystem, because I'm used to settings and functions and modes and that sort of stuff. The SFIT, the flash tubes. Unfortunately, these aren't interchangeable, these flash tubes. So I think the Bowens heads have an extra pin or one less pin or something like that. So yeah, you can't change the flash tubes, but otherwise they're very similar lights. So that's why I decided to go for the Godox ones, or the PixaPro ones here. Okay, so first up, let's have a quick look at the Lumi 200. And you know, I haven't really used these in depth. This is really just going to be first impressions of these lights. I used them both yesterday in a shoot, and obviously no complaints whatsoever. Did exactly what they were supposed to do. But the Lumi 200, really an entry-level head, but most of the time this is really going to be doing everything that you need to do in a studio. 200 watts. Let me just speak about watts and heads a little bit, because I think people sometimes see these numbers and they maybe attribute more, you know, a huge amount more value to like a 1000 watt head than they do a 500 watt head. Makes sense, but the difference between a 500 watt head and a 1000 watt head is one stop. Okay, it's not actually that much. So when you start getting up to like a 500 to a 1000 watt, you think, oh, that's a big step up. It's just one stop extra of light. Okay, so conversely, down at the bottom end here, we got a 200 head, and then let's say you're like, well, that doesn't seem like a huge amount of power. I've already got 500 watt heads. Seems like a bit of a step down. So going from 200 to 400 would be one stop, and then obviously going up from that would be, you know, like an extra 100 watts on top of that would be, obviously to go up a whole stop from there, you'd need to be going up to 800. So it would be like 1 1/3 stops more power, a 500 watt head. Okay, so it's not a huge amount more. 200 watts is more than enough in a lot of studio work, especially for headshots, portraits, corporate, that sort of thing. You'd be surprised as to how powerful this is, and this is still way more powerful than most of the speed lights that I'm aware of. So just bear in mind that, yeah, these 200s, 400s, 500s and on, you know, this one here, what we got is we got the 600 watt here, so it's just like 1.5 stops more power than this one. You know, it's not much at all, even though 600 seems like a lot more. So anyway, that's enough on that. Just wanted to mention that. So one of the nice features about this, it does have this glass dome here, which is going to protect everything, i.e. the flash tube and the modeling bulb and that sort of thing. That's something that's a really nice feature that I haven't seen. Well, I certainly didn't have it on the earlier Bowens heads anyway. That's a really nice feature. Everything goes in there. SFIT again, so all your SFIT modifiers. Really simple. This, I gotta be honest with you, this, you know, this is really where, you know, this is the era of lighting that I come from, where it's just a knob, switches, everything does what it's supposed to do. Really simple. I can adjust the modeling bulb power, adjust the flash power, turn the slave on, turn the, like, just the modeling bulb sound, and test fire. That is it. I gotta say, I love that simplicity. You cannot go wrong, and it's ideal if you're getting into studio lighting and you're like, oh, you know, there's a lot, you know, because heads like this, incredibly powerful, got 101 features that at the start you may not need. So something like this is a great way to cut your teeth, as it were. So moving on then to the Citi 600 here. Like I said, this is the TTL version. very, very powerful head in terms of what it can do. This, like I said, is TTL, so it's got a brain in there that is pretty clever at working stuff out very, very quickly in terms of the subject moving. You've also got high-speed sync, which is great if to capture very fast-moving objects. So, bursting balloons and that sort of stuff is a very, very fast capture. I think it's like up to 10,000th of a second or something. I will put all the stats and bits and pieces up there, but flash duration is absolutely tiny. Yeah, 1/10,000th of a second. Yeah, that it goes up to. High-speed sync as well is not just for capturing fast-moving objects. I mean, I don't, I'm in a studio, nothing's moving that quickly, so I don't really need it. But I do use high-speed sync for shooting at very shallow depth of field. So let's just say you're in a studio and you want to shoot at 1.8 or even wider. It's very difficult to get even something like a 200 watt head down low enough in power. So the high speed sync will enable you to shoot at 4,000th of a second and also shoot 1.8, which means, and it's still going to sync up, okay, to the shutter, which means that you can really crush out a lot of that light and still shoot at wide open apertures with a studio strobe. So this is quite a nice feature. It's all remote, so you can control everything with groups and channels and with your trigger, so you don't have to keep going over to the light, adjusting everything. You can do it all with this here. And I was using this yesterday, and really straightforward. Like, I don't know whether I just got lucky, but normally you have to sync up the triggers and the heads and that sort of stuff. I literally took it out the box, put this on the camera, and it was already talking to another. I don't know whether that's normal or not, but that's certainly really nice. I wasn't looking forward to going through the manual and having to sync it up or pair or whatever it's called. But yeah, so it is just literally saw it straight away. Great, you're off. Very, very simple to use, and again the menu is very simplistic in there in a good way, so that's nice. There's loads of other features on here that I will get into once I've tested it a little bit more and had a play with it and sort of give you my feedback. Obviously, battery, one of the biggest concerns is like how long does it last. It states 500 full power flashes, which is a lot. So for example, when I say full power, so that's if you were to take, so that's using this at full power, which obviously will be the 600 watts. Remember that it's just one stop, so if we go down one stop in power, so that would bring it down to sort of 300 watts. That would mean we get 1,000 shots out of it, just taking it one stop down from full power. So I think it's going to be fine. And people go, oh, how long does the battery last? Well, if really all you need a battery to last is the day's shoot, like, are you going to be shooting for 48 hours straight or something like that? Then yeah, probably not. So yeah, if you can charge at the end of each day, it does take 4 hours to charge. So for me, a concern, and that was the same with the Bowens ones as well, that if you've got 4 or 5 heads and you get back from a shoot and you've got one charger, then it's going to be a long night swapping those over. So definitely recommend getting multiple chargers if you're going to have multiple heads, but they should all come with their own charger anyway. So yeah, the battery weight it's obviously got the power on board, so it's certainly not heavy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very compact, and it's certainly a lot more compact than the Bowens one that I'm currently using. The housing and that sort of thing, it looks plasticky, but is quite tough. And again, I was concerned straight away when I saw the plastic collar here to go on the light stand, but it's all metal on the inside, so it's just a plastic casing really, but it's all metal in there. Okay. One of the nice things, like I said, about the flash tubes on these is the fact that they're just 3-pronged. Okay, they just pop out like that. Okay, and you can just pop them in and change them. That little yellow dot there is the LED modeling bulb, and you can just change them very, very simply. So if one does break, heaven forbid, then obviously you can change them over quite quickly and easily. Okay. Something that you certainly can't do on these. It's a pain to change those bulbs over. So that's just it for a couple of features. Let's now move on to a couple of the attachments and what that means for me and what I think it's going to be useful for. Okay, so what are some of the accessories that I'm excited about with this one? Well, one of the things that I was sort of looking forward to when Bowens announced their XMT location heads, which we spoke about, was the fact that I was already aware of some of these accessories and that were already out there on battery heads and that sort of thing. And we were like, oh, that's great. That means we can do this and we can do that. And unfortunately, they didn't get carried over. So I was very excited to then, almost have an excuse now to start using these PixaPro heads so that I could start using some of those accessories. And one of them, which I don't have here, but you can, instead of the battery, plug this out and or unplug this and plug in a power cable, which gives you so much more versatility if you forget to charge batteries, which I am renowned for doing. So if you have a power cable that you can plug in, it's going to get you out of it's going to get you out of a tricky spot if you need it. So definitely going to look at that. Okay, so you basically turn it into a studio strobe plugged into the wall as a sort of a backup, which is nice. The other one is this, okay, which PixaPro refers to as a remote head. Okay, so let me just explain what this is. Okay, I'm sure you can see what it is already, but it's just a cable that plugs into this head here. So let's take a look. Let's take this off and show you. So because I said these flash tubes are like plug and play, if you like, okay, you can just unplug it quite easily and plug this in, which is awesome because now it means that you've got a lot more versatility. So you can just have this. You don't have all the weight of the battery and the head and that sort of thing. And now you just plug your flash tube in here. Okay. And now right away you've got this portable head. This obviously you can put your S attachments in here, okay, and plug this in, and you can just shoot normally. Okay, everything's working as it would do before, and yeah, so everything's working as it did previously. So this keeps the light the weight off the stand. So it means that you can have this on a stand, or you can hold it. So yesterday, like I said, I was doing some gym shots and I actually was using this handheld with a ring flash for the first time. So many years ago, Bowens brought out this ring flash attachment. So you just basically plug it in and now you have your ring flash, which I was actually hand holding and shooting. Okay, something that you could never do before because of the weight. You can't be hand holding, a studio strobe head. So I was shooting ring flash handheld like this. Okay, which was fantastic. It's just light enough for you to get away with doing that, and you can moving with the subject. You've got your ring flash, very easy to a monkey could use a ring flash. It's very it's very easy to use. Now, I haven't tried this with TTL yet. I don't know if it's at all possible for it to work, how it gets the light back into it and how it even judges the light. I haven't looked at it, but maybe that's something that, obviously, if you're moving around with this, it would adjust the power as well. Something that I'd need to look at a little bit more. But having that external head, in all honesty, this alone makes that head worth it for me. Okay, even if I never unplug this setup, like that in its own right, it is worth it in my opinion, being able to do that, especially with the heads that I currently have. Obviously handheld ring flashes you can get already, but they are thousands and thousands and thousands for some of them. Okay, whereas this is a very nice, simple alternative that works very easily, and yeah. Obviously, it's not an accurate representation of it working because it's the LED that you're seeing, not the actual flash tube. But the shots that I was getting with this yesterday were beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So that's the remote head, they call it. Okay. So I'm just going to put that down there and unplug that. Foolishly, I didn't turn it off before I changed the bulb or anything like that. Don't recommend doing that. I'm sure it's fine. Well, I didn't die, so can't be that bad. Let's put that back on there for a second. But yeah, that opens up a whole world of modifiers with the S-Fit. The S-Fit attachment is probably, I think it is the world's most well used attachment. So there's so many modifiers out there and so many different options. But that the battery pack cable in the studio, great. The remote head, awesome. Can't wait to get some new ideas going with that. Okay, so that's just some of those. Now let's look at where we can get them, how much does it cost, and that sort of thing. Okay, so as always, the video's gone on long. I don't know how people make these 10-minute videos, but like I said, I just wanted to give my first impressions and a couple of sort of ideas quickly. I've only used it once. Obviously looking forward to testing it further. I'm shooting later on this week in Switzerland, doing some training out there, so maybe I'll see if I can take this with me and sneak it into one of the setups and put it through its paces. So that'll be good. I'll certainly let you know my results on that. So where can we get these? Obviously, like I said, I got in touch with Essential Photo, who distribute PixaPro, and they very kindly lent me this to test. So of course I said that I would give him a shout out and let you know where you can get it. He's also got a discount code as well that he's given me to offer you guys. So by all means, you can, if you want to save yourself some money, then and you want to get these, or I think the code might even work on his website across the board actually, so it's definitely worth checking. And he also said that it would work on stuff that's already on sale. That sounds crazy to me, but yeah, I mean, definitely. I checked it a minute ago, and the code works even on sale stuff. So brilliant. It's Hicks off. So I don't know whether he's swearing at me there or whatever, but it's HICK 5-off. Obviously, I'll put the code in the link. But let's have a look at the site here. So we've got Essential Photo, and this is the unit. So this is the one that we were looking at here, the Citi 600TTL, and this actually wasn't an offer that I was aware of until I sat down to do this video, and I just wanted to pull up his website. But he's doing a bundle, crazy to me, but the head, 600TTL head, plus the trigger, okay, which is the trigger that you need to not use the head, but if you want to take advantage of the TTL functions and some of the other more advanced functions, then that comes with that deal as well. And the remote head, which is awesome. Basically, if you're going to get this head, you need to get that remote head anyway, in my opinion. You just have to. And he's doing all that for $640 UK money, £640. And yeah, so with the code off on that as well, on that deal, basically you get all of that for just over 600, I think. So definitely worth doing. All right, that's all in there. And I did. I even checked it. I was just like finding it a little bit hard to believe, but I did check it, and it's still all working. Let me just double check it here. So yep. So there we go. So that's the offer is there at the moment. Remote head, TTL trigger, and if we just put my code in and apply that, it goes from 640 down to 608. So even more money off that offer. So definitely worth looking at. Please have a look on Essential Photos website. Like I said, I put an image out last week, and a couple of people came back saying, yeah, worked with Essential Photo, and they're great, give you lots of feedback and advice. If you've got any questions, then they're always on hand to help. And I know, like I said, my colleague Wayne Johns has been working with Essential Photo for a very long time, and he was the one who recommended me to them. So yeah, definitely can't go wrong there. And he offers all the guarantees and repairs and that sort of thing on the PixaPros if anything was to happen. Okay. So that is it, guys. I want to know what questions you have, though. What do you want to know about these heads? Is there anything that you'd like to know specifically? Obviously, I'm going to be looking out for my own things when I'm doing my tests and review and that sort of thing. But is there any questions that you'd like to know? Is there something specific to you and your needs with both of these lights? Something that you were concerned about, or I'm not sure about that. How does that go? How does this compare to A, B, C, and D? Let me know. I want to know about them, and I will do my best to answer them as well. Like I said, I've got my own things I'm looking for, but that's just for the work that I do. You may want to know something different yourselves as well, so by all means, fire away. Thanks so much for watching. I know, as always, it's a long video, so I appreciate my long-standing, long-suffering community of people who put up with my long-winded content, so appreciate that. Thanks again. Check out the website. Everything's in the description below, and I shall see you in the next one.